All right, I believe we are live. So we're a little bit behind schedule, which is all right. We will make up for lost time in just a moment. But we are live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok. TikTok is on its own down here. So for those of you that join me on TikTok, any questions you have for our guest tonight, just pop them in the chat and I will read them out loud on the air as we often do. Oh, look at that. Oh, I'm a hipster now. This is good. We're all hipsters. Mark, we like it. I don't know if I could get any more hip without breaking one. So we'll we'll have to see. And I don't want to do that. That's not in the that's not in the cards. The Performing Hypnosis Summit, which I'm assuming is Brian, says hello, hello, hello. And speaking of which, we have a quick announcement about that. But before I do that, I'm going to bring on my co-host from One Coast, and we'll explain why in a minute. So please welcome to the Hypnosis Hero podcast, Mr. Brian Bay, sir.
Hey, good afternoon.
How are you?
Or good evening. Good.
Yeah.
It is
or an evening. Hot. I used to have arguments about that.
It is hot.
What the hell? Listen, there is so much water here, so much rain. I'm growing a beard. I'm going to cut the trees down, and I'm going to start inviting animals 2 by 2 right away.
Oh, we're getting that Friday.
I had to turn the heat on.
Yeah, it's
that cool.
A high of 87 degrees Fahrenheit.
Well, we're already down into the kind of mid-high teens here. Cold.
Yeah, it's 30 degrees in metric.
Yeah, no, we're not even close to that. Not even close. What can I say? So what is up for you on this fine week?
Well, I have news. I am not moving to Texas.
Okay.
So that was that was in case of emergency break glass. It would be just, all right, I'll make an offer on a house down there and go move. But we actually were able to work something out with a rental that is that's probably about 20 minutes from here. So I just ran up and dropped off a deposit, and it's after living in this house for probably 15 years, it's a little bit bittersweet because I've developed quite the rapport and relationship with my current landlord and his wife. They're lovely people, and kind of become attached and comfortable in this house. But it's also an opportunity for the next chapter to kind of go through and purge a lot of the stuff that I haven't been using and get rid of that, kind of lighten the load, if you will. And it's another good place that just different opportunities. So I'll be closer to another friend of mine that moved a little farther north, but still going to fly out of Everett and Seattle.
All good. That whole purging thing, I know all about that because I've been doing it bit by bit since the divorce, and I still have a long way to go. So whenever I sell this house, there's going to be some massive yard sales. So
yeah.
And we have to say this. So Becca is, I'm not sure if that's a complaint or a fact. I know it's a fact, but I don't see that as a complaint.
In conversations with her, I believe that she's speaking of temperature, like I was. Hashtag damn we're all pretty, but I mean, it is, even the dog is just laying down here by the fan at my feet. He's like, just blow the air over top of me and I'm a happy boy.
Yeah.
But Friday we're just gonna get dumped on with rain. Saturday, Sunday it'll taper off, and then I think we are next week is just kind of cloudy and overcast, mid-60s. So we're at that time of year where Mother Nature goes off her meds. And
we say that every broadcast.
It is just I'm super hot. No, it's raining. No, not nice weather. No, we don't. I'm angry at this.
Exactly. So,
So
speaking of guys who have interesting weather, let's go to another coast and bring in our other co-host tonight.
Hello.
Oh, he's got an accent.
It is hot tonight.
See, it's
So
the English.
and
They're just prancing around, being all hot.
Grant's just talking about how pretty he is.
Oh, it's all good.
yeah, it's that sticky heat. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
Becky is just saying that she's melting. Oh my, you can't shrink anymore.
If she does, she'll fit into Grant's carry-on luggage. Even if a roomy checked bag is probably cheaper than airfare.
That's true.
So.
Yeah.
That's true.
So we have a quick announcement to make before we actually do get into the podcast and introducing our guest tonight, and that is, of course, Performing Hypnosis Summit. There are only 6 days left to get your speaker submissions in. So I know you're going to see these for the remainder of this week, because you know what? We want people to come and experience PHS or speak online and experience what it's like to deliver your message online, because we do both. We run three streams at a time, 2 that are on site, and then 1, of course, that is fully online. So there's plenty of ways for people to participate as an audience, but in order to have an audience, we need to have speakers, and we want people to come and experience what we have to offer, because every conference might say this, but I actually think it's true. We are unique in that we are the only conference that actually is for stage performers, and people who want to learn how to be stage performers, people who are maybe kicking the tires at what is this all about. This would be the place to come and learn.
Yeah, and it's a place where you can come and just, especially if you have an interest in the performance side of hypnosis, it's where you can just really come network with some of the people that are, been doing it a long time, and then also some of the people. Sorry, I'm just reading Brian's message there.
I felt that was appropriate. I didn't know that. I was finding that meme that I had sent the other day, and I was like, let me send this over to Shaun.
Facebook has Messenger.
So I was in another screen in my defense. Yeah. Oh man,
it's okay.
So, good news. You guys only have to put up with me for just a few more minutes.
Yeah, that's true. And that is actually why we have Grant along with us tonight, because we knew that Brian had to step out. He's got another engagement to get to. So you were on Dan's podcast, The Traveling Hypnotist, today, Brian.
Yesterday, I think.
Yesterday, okay.
Within the last 72 hours, I know that.
Podcast with Dan, which Brian and Dan on a podcast together, that's just dangerous as it is. So
right. No, it was great. It's very, very kind of Dan to invite me on. So with Performing Hypnosis Summit, we've partnered with a couple of airlines to offer discounted airfare. And, while it's not some crazy 40% off or anything like that, it's something. So every little bit helps. And with going through the links that we provided and the discount codes that are there, you're still going to get all of your frequent flyer miles if you have rewards and stuff like that. And I think with a couple of them, you might even get a little extra boost or a bonus. So I know with United and Delta, there are international origination cities that the airfare will work on. And when if you take between 5 and 7 or 10% off of an international flight, that pays for bags. So it's definitely a good thing. And the benefit of going through those links, we actually are able to show them, it tracks the metrics of who's coming to our conference. and just as far as the number of people. And then same thing with booking the discounted hotel rooms from the website, is we get to go back to those entities and say, here's what we've done. We're consistently growing. How can you help us next year? And we work to negotiate the best rate and give you guys the best value for money for this conference.
Yep.
So we're still working on a few other airlines and more stuff. If you haven't seen some of the posts on the Performing Hypnosis 2027 event, and then it gets shared to the Performing Hypnosis group, that more information is coming, and I'm still working on sponsorships, ironing out some other activities, and we'll do things just a little bit different than we did earlier this year. So I think there's going to be a lot of improvements, and this is going to be the 4th year that we're in person, and we get better every single year. There's a little bit more to add to to add to that whole equation.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, you want to make sure that there are measured improvements every year, because that just keeps the momentum going. And we've seen conferences that from days gone by that they lost their momentum, and eventually they just discontinued. And this one is such a unique value proposition for people who want to come out, and it's in January. So when it is minus 52 here in Saskatchewan, I can be in Vegas where it's plus something or other.
Right, and it also gives you the opportunity to Hypno Thoughts is it this coming weekend or what?
Oh no, it's in July.
July, okay. I've been looking at court dates and everything else, so all the brain's a little scrambled and everything just kind of blends together. But yeah, come out in January, scout out what you want to see, some of the different things that you want to do. If you come out to Hypno Thoughts in July, pre-scout where your air conditioning is going to be, because Las Vegas in July, I mean, you think we're melting now. It's a dry heat though.
It's always a dry heat. That's what everybody says.
The buzzard starts circling overhead. You're like, oh, this could be bad. But no, it's a great time. And, in all reality, we've done well. Yeah, I was talking with Dan, and Dan did some research on his own kind of independently. And he said that PHS, I think, ranked number 4 out of all of the hypnosis conferences that he looked at. And that was, we started virtually during COVID. We did the first year at the Orleans. Then Jim died. We scrambled. We put that one on. Then this year we learned a lesson of, we kind of mourn Jim's death. People get busy with different things. And now we learned a lesson, and, we're hitting the marketing and the planning a lot earlier, and getting some things in place, and, kind of uncovering the stuff that Jim was doing behind the scenes. So
for a minute there, I thought you were going to say we were uncovering Jim. I was going to say that's not really technically allowed without a warrant.
I was going to say, no, it was, we disposed of remains in a different way. So, I'm really excited with how things are coming along, and it's really been amazing, the tremendous amount of support that we've had with people who just want to help. I've said it before with Kevin and Michael Deschalet, and those guys, kind of boots on the ground in Vegas, and we try to give back and go out, see their shows. Steve Falcon is at MGM Grand now. Mark Savard, we were going to see him in January, but he had some stuff come up unexpectedly, so he had to jam out of town. So we're trying to sort those types of schedules out, and it's difficult to plan with Vegas far in advance. So those things we're looking at, kind of towards the end of summer, getting those details nailed down.
We'll have it finalized we'll have as Dan put it, a locked schedule,
Locked.
and it's all good.
Subject to change.
Yeah.
But
it's again for the performers. It's in January, which is the quiet time. You know, some of the other conferences are on. You know, Hypno Thought's fantastic conference, but again, you know, my peak time on a lot of performers is that. So by the fact that it's on in January, the majority of performers can have that kind of downtime and get out there as well. But again, what makes it slightly different from a lot of the others is that ethos of kind of performers that are traditionally lone wolves are coming together, connecting, and kind of sharing that knowledge and growing together. And you know, each we're hearing of people whose lives have been transformed and businesses transformed from connection they've made at PHS, which is what it's all about. It's not about any of us. It's not about ego in that sense. It's about bringing people together that want stage hypnosis to still be around and still be seen as a viable source of entertainment for decades to come. And that's why we've got to pull together on this.
And you've got legends like Terry Stokes, Kevin Lapine, Salish, Chris Jones. You know, those guys that come out and they're eager to share the knowledge and keep the momentum going. And it's really interesting how kind of the industry is starting to shift a bit, as far as it's becoming more collaborative, and there's not, while there still are people out there that have the scarcity mentality and, you know, all that, it's how can we help people achieve their own success. And I think, touching on what you just said, Grant, Carol Burgett is one of our examples. She was she came out to, I think, the first conference at the Orleans with Jim, or she came out the next year. Now that escapes me right now, but you know, I just posted and shared her video where she booked her biggest show so far at this really amazing kind of mansion, gigantic house. And then she followed it up with another live video after she was done, and it was like borderline tears of joy that she was so excited, so pumped and amped, and just thankful and grateful for everybody who who supported her, who, you know, consulted and, you know, gave her that push to keep going. And that's kind of what it's about.
Yeah, it's a great thing for the conference, because you've got like Jack Gooby, who booked 20 shows before he'd even done his first show. Which was, and
then fantastic. He just kind of did he did PHS and then just like rolled out on tour, didn't he?
Of course, but again, from the information that he picked up from there, because that's the difference. Mm-hmm. It's performers that know the pitfalls and the things that you need to do for it. But what's great about it is it's not just for getting people across the line to do their first show. You know, Joe Beth did a fantastic talk a couple of years ago on his first year in hypnosis. It's also about, and this is why I first came out to Vegas many, many years ago, for the Ultimate Stage Hypnosis Conference. It's about, sometimes as a performer, you learn this stuff, you get going at it, you get good at it, you start earning a living from it, but then you want to tweak it because you want to take it to the next level. You don't just want to be a full-time performer, you want to be a fantastic performer. And again, PHS is great for that, because there's people that have taken that next level, and it helps them fine-tune or polish the stone as such. So yeah, there's something for everybody.
And Mark Barris had Shaun, you had his comment up. He's got a great point. Gold Coast is at a great location. We're not on the strip, so we're not paying on the strip prices. But we're next door to Rio. We're across from the Palms. There's a Walgreens. We're down the street from a grocery store, and you can walk to the strip. And, you know, kind of a really nice part of the strip is, you know, in between Caesar, you know, Flamingo runs, splits right in between Caesar's Palace and the Bellagio. So cross the freeway and then cross the street and you're right at the Bellagio fountains.
Speaking of the Ultimate Stage Hypnosis Conference that I just mentioned then, so I think that was back in 2015, 2016. I'd already been performing on numerous years, and I wanted to get better. I wanted to take my show to the next level. I remember pulling into the car park. I hired a Mustang 5-litre GT because that's what you do when you go to Vegas. I remember pulling into the car park thinking I was all that and a bag of chips. And as I pulled into the car park of the Orleans, the Ultimate Stage Hypnosis Conference with Jerry Valley, the Charlotte and lots of other people. And I remember as I pulled into that car park, I've seen this giant pickup truck, and all down the side of it, it said Hypno Hick. And I thought that is how you know.
I love it. So,
and with that, we should probably get our guest on here because we've got lots of people going through TikTok here. Hello to everybody on TikTok. If you want to ask questions of our guest tonight, please feel free to post them in the chat, like and follow and share it out that we're live here. So today we're welcoming another Shaun. So this is going to be interesting. So somebody says Shaun, we're going to say what? Because we're twins. Shaun Christensen, better known as the Hypno Hick, as Grant has alluded to. He's a comedy stage hypnotist, hypnotherapist, instructor, and founder of hypnohick.com, which to me is absolutely brilliant branding, and we'll get into that a little bit later. He has more than 25 years of experience. He's entertained audiences across the U.S. While also helping clients break through limiting beliefs, personal challenges, and performance blocks. He's based out of Utah, and he brings a unique mix of humor, heart, and straight-shooting practicality, which is, I think, something we all need, to the world of hypnosis. He's also involved in Hypnosis for Rodeo, a program designed to help rodeo athletes improve focus, manage performance anxiety, and sharpen their mental edge. So please welcome to the Hypnosis Hero podcast, the one, the only Hypno Hick, Shaun D. Christensen.
Oh, Shaun, welcome.
Wow. Feels like I'm in front of a stage of 2,000 people. That's awesome.
We try. We've recorded ourselves 1,000 times.
Nice.
Yeah. So
all good. Welcome to the podcast. You know what? And Steve and I were colluding on how we were going to get you on here, and then he finally messaged me one night and he said, "Shaun, that's it. We got to get Shaun on the podcast." Hey, Steve, you've been here, so get him on now.
Awesome.
So yeah, end of June, not quite June 31st yet, but it is a good time to be on the podcast.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Becca says, "Hey." I'm assuming she's saying hey to a Shaun, one of us, probably you, not me. I'm the old Shaun now. Actually, if you ever want to have people, and just watch their head go tilt, is be like Ronald Reagan and say, you know what, I'm celebrating the 25th anniversary of my 29th birthday, and then let them do the math. Students, especially at the end of the year now, we're at the end of the school year here in Saskatchewan, and they are just done. And you do something like that, and they're looking at you like, this guy's old.
my brain itches. But
that's not even 6'7". That's skibbity.
Oh God. No. So
problem is I have nieces their age, and I know what they're talking about. So anyway.
So actually, this is a perfect time for me. Shaun, I've got it to jam out. Like we were saying earlier, I've got a Masonic lodge meeting. A good friend of mine, we're celebrating an achievement for him. So this was one of those things that, 15 years of friendship kind of usurps the podcast. But what I'm going to do is go get changed. And while I'm on the motorcycle, I'll listen to you guys through the helmet and, comment when I get to my destination and everything. But I wanted to say thank you again for coming on, and I will leave the two Shauns in the capable hands of a true and trusted friend as Grant starts giggling. And, Shaun, you're with the Metric Twins right now. So
awesome. Cool.
I'll watch. I'll definitely look for comments and everything like that, and we'll definitely have you come back on again. And I hope we can get that scheduled soon.
Awesome. Well, enjoy your meeting, Brian.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, enjoy the goat, Brian.
Take care, Grant.
Yeah.
All right.
Shaun, so I was just mentioning the Ultimate Stage Hypnosis Conference back in Vegas I can't remember, it might have been 2000 and something, and I pulled into the car park and saw you had a big pickup truck back then, and I just remember that was incredible marketing. So
Well,
yeah.
thank you. Yeah. My branding works with my truck for sure. Well, I've got it everywhere. I've got it on my shirts.
Yeah.
That's been a very fortunate thing for me to be able to brand like that. If you don't mind me just kind of taking over for a second, that's how I started branding. I had a red and white pickup truck and a Coca-Cola truck pulled up right next to me, and I thought, amazing. So I tried to find the Coca-Cola font to put Hypno Hick on my truck, and I couldn't find the font, but I found this thing called Bleeding Cowboys is the name of this font, and so I found it, and then I put it on this angle, and so I started. Well, that's backwards. That angle, and so that's been a really good thing. And what I thought was when people think hypnotist, I want them to think Hypno Hick, and that's why I did that. So.
Yeah.
No, that's perfect. Like that would even resonate. It would resonate especially in Alberta. But everybody in Alberta thinks people in Saskatchewan are Hicks, even though 75% of them actually came from here. So, but we're not gonna say anything about that. To me, that just gets the message out. It's visible. It's out there, and people will see that. I used to try. I didn't really do much with because I couldn't. It was a brand new vehicle, but I used to have the magnetic things that you could flip on the door, which did a little bit, but not anything like having the whole vehicle branded out.
Yeah, it's important, I think, to do that. There's another hypnotist here in Utah, and he says, "Man, your name is just so unique, being the Hypno Hick. It's memorable." And I agree, it really is. But yet, if I say the name Igor Ledagowski, we know that name, right? And so that's a hard name to remember. But those of us who are in hypnosis know that name. So it really doesn't matter about the name. It matters about the branding and the marketing and how much you're out there, and it'll stick in people's mind no matter what that is. So.
Yeah.
And I think, especially like performers like ourselves, when you're on the road, the amount of miles that we clock up is ridiculous. So to have that branding out there just means you are marketing everywhere that you go. And because it's so unique, when people see it, I have a friend who's got their van is all done like a jelly bean. And they've only got a couple of vans, but people think that they see loads of these vans because it stands out. So every time they see it, they think it's a different van. And so, it raises his brand profile so much. He claims that that's the best kind of dollar spend for advertising he's ever done.
I agree. I don't know that it's got me the shows. Well, that's not true. I know it got me one show for sure in Southern Utah. I was down there. Somebody seen my truck, found my website, called me up, and I did a show like 2 nights later while I was in Southern Utah. But when they see me, they're like, "Man, I see your truck everywhere." Yeah. And so it just stays in their mind. So if they want to book a hypnotist, that's what's awesome. And like you said, traveling, I just did 11,000 miles in the last 6 weeks performing all over, from Montana to Utah to Southern Utah, back to Montana, Wyoming, and my truck's everywhere. It's important.
Yeah.
We'll give a quick shout out to Vinny on TikTok. It's been a while, Vinny. You and I should probably connect for coffee sometime. I think that's something that people don't realize about stage performers. Oftentimes they'll look at the end bill and say, "Well, how come it's so much?" Not realizing 11,000 miles is a lot of gas. It's a lot of wear and tear on the vehicle. It's a lot of staying in hotels or if you've got a camper with you or whatever, because I know Alan and Lisa do travel with their trailer and everything else, but they don't see those pieces of the expense, plus the preparation, plus I know from watching Steve kind of behind the scenes operating some of the mechanics at some of your outdoor shows, there's some setup there, and there's some kit that goes along with you don't just walk in with an iPad and say, here I'm here to do my show. You've got some equipment that needs to be set up and maintained and programmed, and all of those pieces that go into making a successful show. And sometimes when they get the final bill, they're well, it was only an hour. Well, yeah, but it was 8 hours of driving and loading in and out and setting up, and they forget that it's not just the hour that they see.
And $7,000 worth of sound equipment, and your $500 microphone or $800 microphone, and I have a headset and a handheld, and so
Yep.
yeah, there's just so much expense that goes into doing that, and people don't, like you're saying, people don't realize the behind the scenes stuff. A 2-hour show is a 2-day event, right? So I'm getting paid basically for 2 days, because now you got to come home and you got to burn videos and you got to get those uploaded and get those sold out. And now I'm doing recordings and I'm getting those emailed out. Books have got to get printed, and there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people don't have a clue.
Yeah. So let's back up, because Grant already went down memory lane. Let's take it right back. How did you get? And pardon the pun, but how did you get roped into hypnosis?
I like the pun, actually. That was good. I was going to high school in southern Utah, and I was not good at school. I even failed PE. So I sucked at school. And I started taking psychology classes. And in one of our psychology classes, we had a hypnotist come, and he said, you can cut therapy into a third of the time because you get to the root of the problem. And I thought, well, then why doesn't everybody do that? And so I decided to become a hypnotherapist. So I started looking for schools and trying to find out how in the world you become a hypnotist. This was back in '94, and I thought, how do you become a hypnotist? I have no idea. There was nothing around, so life happened, and I started, down my career path. I was managing restaurants and worked for the airline industry and did a bunch of different things. And then I was at a fair in Salt Lake, and I seen a big sign. It was in 2002, a big sign that says, become a hypnotherapist. And I thought, that's what I want to do. And so the people that were there, I said, I don't care how much it costs. I want to get signed up. And so she did a 5-month course, which was her own agenda at the time, through the National Guild of Hypnotists. And that's who I got certified through, and started doing one-on-one consultations. In Utah, we actually can't call it a hypnotherapist. We have to call it a consulting hypnotist. Yep. And so I started down that route. And then that was 2003. 2004, I started doing stage shows just for fun and to see how that worked. I joined another hypnotist actually in Salt Lake, and joined him for a couple of years and was learning the ins and outs and the ropes, and how do the lights work, and how does the music work, and how do you put the skit together, and how do you do group skits, and how do you do single skits, and you don't want them combined too much. Learn the ropes of stage hypnosis. And then I started doing my own show in about 2005. I had a different stage name at the time. It was Damien Knight was my stage name for 2 years, and I didn't like it. And for those of us that are older, kind of remember, stage hypnotist was, you'd come out in a tuxedo and you were I will control your mind and you're going to obey me. And I thought, I hate that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be in a tuxedo. It's not comfortable for me. I want to give it a fun feel and explain what hypnosis is in the beginning of my show. And so a friend of mine says, well, what would you be comfortable in? I says, dude, I don't know. I grew up on a little ranch. I'd rather be comfortable in cowboy clothes. And he said, well, come out as a cowboy hypnotist. And I said, there is nobody going to be hypnotized by a cowboy hypnotist. And his wife says, oh, the Hypno Hick. And we thought that was the stupidest thing. And the next week I thought, I'll try it. So I come out I was still in a tuxedo, but tuxedo top, wore a cowboy hat, kind of like George Strait, wore a cowboy hat, the tuxedo, and Wranglers. And the crowd was completely different. And I don't know if it was because my energy was different or because it was fun. And I went and bought the name Hypno Hick the next week. So
there you go.
And then fairs love it. And so then I went from 16 shows a year to 32 almost overnight. And it was just insane. And then I did 64, and then I built it up to 80, and then COVID happened. After I hit 82, COVID happened. I went to 17. The deal was I never stopped marketing. So I kept marketing, I kept promoting, I kept doing everything through COVID. And then when COVID ended, the next year I did 105 shows. And I was like, holy cow, this is too much. So I tried to back it up. Well, then I did 103. And then last year I did 82, I think. But this year is going to be 100 again. I'm on track to do over 100 again this year. So
Nice.
there's that. Back in 2014, I got certified in forensics hypnosis, PTSD hypnosis, and I became an instructor for the National Guild of Hypnotists. And then just last year at the convention, or this year in February, I got certified, board certified with the NGH. So that's kind of my story.
So forensics now, surprisingly, forensics is a class that the actual physical and investigative part of forensics is a class now that we actually offer in our school division, and there are loads of students that take it. But I would be interested to know how many of them would take it that next step to go into forensic hypnosis, because that is a completely different beast. You really have to know what you're doing, and make sure that you don't unduly influence testimonies and things like. There's a lot there.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about that, because that's you're the first person on the podcast, and this is episode 100 and I want to say 16, where somebody has mentioned being certified in forensic hypnosis.
Okay, so the biggest thing I learned is how to ask questions and how to phrase questions without leading them. I suggest everybody take that, because even in a regular session, it's really good to ask questions in a certain framework based on what you're wanting to achieve. Some of the big things is in forensics is some of the questions is, instead of saying what's in their hands, the subconscious mind is now putting something into their hands. Maybe there was nothing, but the subconscious mind in hypnosis can create something into their hands. So you just say, what are their hands doing? Instead of saying, how tall might the person be, or how tall is he or she, you're suggesting they're tall. Instead of saying, what might their height be, or what might their weight be, instead of saying, how heavy is the person. So it's just switching the way you're phrasing a question is very, very important, not to do any leading. Sometimes there's a block, right? And if there's a block, then you just say, okay, jump to the next significant moment. And so when they jump to the next significant moment, that's what's important to them, and they'll usually remember that. Those are just some phrases. The big thing I got out of that too was, when we talk about PTSD, we associate that with veterans. However, who else can suffer from PTSD? Police officers, they come upon some things that happen. Fire department. The people we don't even think about is the media. They're there on scene filming something that's happening. And so there's a lot of people who aren't getting treated for PTSD that may have it. So I think it's very, very powerful stuff. It's hard to get into, to tell people that you work with PTSD, because a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And the cool thing about it is you don't have to talk about the PTSD. I'm sorry, I'm talking about PTSD, forensic stuff. I forgot to for some reason. Back to forensics, talking about what a license plate number was, or what a suspect to a crime might have been. I took PTSD and the forensics at the same time. So, but yeah, well, PTSD.
That's fine, because that was going to be my next question, because it's when you're looking at how you phrase the questions, I have to imagine there is some overlap with working with people who are looking to resolve some PTSD, because again, you don't want to re-traumatize them.
Sure. And when they're focused on something, back in the forensics part, right? So somebody witnesses something, and you say, well, what did the person look like? I don't know, but the gun was this big. Like, they're focused on one thing, and in hypnosis, we can have them relax and remember what they've seen, what the brain picked up on that they may not be thinking about, because all they're focused on is, the gun was that big. And you want to focus on other stuff too.
Yeah, but if it was Arnold holding the gun, it's really only that big.
Right.
Okay. We should probably switch gears a little bit. So when you got into stage hypnosis way back when, and then you met that Grant guy up there at a conference, all the way to now, what would you tell your younger self? Looking back over the years, what have you learned, and what would you say to somebody who's just going to be starting out?
A couple of things. One is review your material, watch your show. And that was big for me, is to rewatch my shows over and over again to say, okay, what made that part funny? Why were they laughing at that part? Okay, that skit or that part didn't hit like I was expecting. So what do I need to change here? I talk really fast, and so I listen to myself on video, and I think, how in the world do people get hypnotized? I talk so fast, and so I've actually learned how to use that to my advantage. And so because I do rodeo and I also do auctioneering, I use it to my advantage. So when I'm doing a hand clasp, I tell them, your hands are now locking 10 times tighter, now 25, a bit 30, now 35 times tighter than there was a bit ago, to now 40, now 45. And I'm touching their hands. And so I'm auctioning it to use it to my advantage. And that helps. So, but I wouldn't have known that had I not have been watching my videos. So that's a big one. Re-watch your stuff and critique yourself. Another thing I would say is it's going to be hard, and there's going to come to a point in your life when you don't know whether you still need a full-time job or it's time to quit, and keep going, because your family, well, my family, all I can speak is from my experience. My mom was my biggest critic, and I'd say, man, I don't know what to do. I'm struggling with bills. Well, don't give up on your daytime job. Keep going with your daytime job. Keep focused on that. And it's out of love, right? But I'm taking it at that time in my life, oh, she doesn't want me to do hypnosis, and so therefore, blah, 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 blah. That wasn't it. Yeah. It was, they were hearing the struggle, and they know how to resolve it, which is have a real job.
Yeah.
And so
I love the air quotes.
Right. Well, in fact, I was talking to my mom last week. She goes, I bet you're so glad that you didn't listen to me. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, yeah. So if you're at a point when you're doing, 30 shows a year or whatever that is for you, it depends on how much you're charging and how much you need to make, and you're scared to lose your full-time job, go for it, right? If you're at that point and it's a question, you can always get another job. And I had to get another job, right? At some point, because some years just aren't that great. And so I had to go get another job. I was managing a restaurant for a while, and then you can quit and go back to your hypnosis and be flexible. So those are the things I would tell myself for sure. Don't give up. There were so many times I was, and find a friend who helps push you. That friend who called me Hypno Hick, I'd be talking to him and I'm like, man, I've only done 30 shows this year. I don't know if I can make this happen. I don't know if I can quit. He said, well, how many did you do last year? Well, I only did 20 last year. Well, you did 13 more this year or 12 more this year than you did last year. Well, you're right. Have somebody to keep pushing you. Find that person.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. I mean, you're obviously a successful hypnotherapist as well. Do you think the stage stuff has been beneficial to your hypnotherapy practice?
Yes. Only because that's where I can promote. That's the people's first exposure to hypnosis is at a stage show. And so I'm seeing these teenagers, and I'll throw in there something about, yeah, and I do sports hypnosis or something like that. I'll do the finger thing, and I say, me doing a sports hypnosis is called idiomotor syncrasy. That's what I use when I work with athletes. So now they're thinking, oh, I play sports, I can go see this hypnotist. It's just a little thing. So I think that's helped. However, I think it's also hindered me only doing one-on-one clients, because I don't promote the one-on-one clients as much as I would if I wasn't doing being a stage hypnotist.
Yeah.
So I think it's got pros and cons.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've noticed as people have come to the Performing Hypnosis Summit is they're coming from a therapy background, or they're coming from a stage background only, and then they mix and find out, hey, you're doing that, I'm doing this. It's actually not that different, and maybe we can collaborate on some things. And like Grant said, we did see over the last few years a number of really great relationships that came out of it, and some really solid mentorships. The people that, like, exactly the person you're talking about, that you can go and you can whine to them, and they'll turn around and kick you in the butt and say, get out there and go do it. You don't get to do that with a teacher as much as you do with a mentor, right? So
correct. And the good thing about the hypnotists here in Utah, and Steve Supachano used to be here in Utah. Yep. We all had a really good group of, well, we still do have a really good group of people who support each other. I know there's a lot of backstabbing and things that happen in the hypnosis community, and that fear of lack, and so they're afraid that you're going to steal a show from them. And oh my gosh, there's so much work to be done, like both with client work and with shows. Just drive down the interstate and look how many businesses are off to the side. There's a million in Utah alone, or Montana, or Wyoming, or wherever you're at, and there's no lack for sure. You can be as busy as you want to, and so find those group of people who will help support you and mentor you and say, hey, do this. Or Steve and I were talking today on the phone, and we were talking about skits, and he says, hey, I've got this idea for a skit. And I said, well, what if you did this? He's like, oh, that's awesome. So having that friendship is really awesome.
Yeah, and that's exactly it right there. And I've known Steve for a long time, and he's mentored me on a few different things as well. So, just having that go-to that you can say, hey, this isn't working. Why didn't it work? Like you said, review your own material. Why didn't this work? Help me pick this apart, right? And the other person that was always good for that was Lisa. Misty Knight, with Ellen Sands, she would drill into us all the time. Record, even if you don't publish it, record it, so you can at least watch yourself and improve. And then she would pick things apart, and well, that word was wrong, and it was a word. Like, okay, what was wrong with it, Lisa? Well, you said this, and you should have said that. If you would have said that, you'd have got this. And I was like, how do you know that?
Yep.
But that's the beauty of having somebody who's been in the trenches and had the experience, right?
Yep. Speaking of that, I was doing a show one time, and I said sleep, which we do, and one whole half went to sleep, and I thought, why did only that half go to sleep? So I go back and I watched the show, and I saw myself go sleep, and I stopped right here, and because I didn't continue with my hand, something super easy. Like that, only this group went out, and the rest of them stayed awake. And I would have not known had I not have recorded that. I would have had no idea.
Wow. Okay. So just like throwing a ball, follow through. Talk to us a little bit about rodeo. Like, it's been a while since Steve has been on, and he talked a little bit about some of the things that he's looking at doing with rodeo. But you work in the rodeo field, and you help the athletes with their performance. Which, I mean, athletic performance is one thing, but the whole rodeo setting, I mean, obviously is perfect for Hypno Hick. And not that I'm saying everybody that goes to a rodeo is a hick, but they all wear cowboy hats.
Yes. So Steve and I actually own the business together. It's called Hypnosis for Rodeo.
Okay.
And so I was doing it a little bit before Steve kind of came along. So I was doing some of the hypnosis for rodeo athletes before that. And then Steve and I got together, and I found out that he had done rodeo. So then he and I kind of coordinated and got this business running together. So now we own this business together. And so what we have found, so I was working with some of the top guys in the National Finals Rodeo, which that's the big final of the rodeo, right? So I was working with some of them while they were in college before they went to the rodeo. What we were finding is in a rodeo, you got 8 seconds to make a ride, basically what happens. People were getting bucked off at that 6-second mark. And so I hypnotized them to find out what's going on in your mind before you're getting bucked off. What's happening? Sometimes it can be because they look down. If they look down, the body follows where the head goes when they're in a it's called a rough stock, when they're getting bucked, right? So in hypnosis, I found that what happens is the people behind them in the chute, so they're getting on the animal and there's people standing behind them, and those people are saying, have a good out. What that means is when the horse comes out of the chute, they have to have their feet above their shoulders. It's called a mark out rule. If it's not, they get disqualified. So these guys are saying, have a good out, meaning mark that horse when you come out. So that's where their brain's going. Well, what was happening is they'd have that good mark out, and then what had happened is their brain shut down. They weren't thinking of anything else, so they black out because the brain just went, oh, I accomplished my job, so done, because that's all they were thinking about. So I started creating these audio programs saying, okay, you're not done with that ride until you're safely out of the arena. So let's imagine the ride. You're having a good out, say basically thank you to the cheerleader section behind you. And then once you have that mark out rule, now you're going through the 8 seconds, what you go through. Picture yourself going for 10 seconds at least. And then once you're safely out of the arena, then the ride's over. So I had them replay that in their mind, and boom, they started winning competitions. It was insane how fast that was happening. And then I started working with barrel racers, and then Steve come along. We started working with barrel racers and ropers, and we created these audio programs for them as well. And then now we've got every event that's in rodeo, we have audio programs for that.
Nice. Talk about cornering the market.
Yes.
Do you work with other athletes, other in other areas, other verticals, or is it strictly rodeo?
Nope. So I mostly work with the rodeo because I'm really good friends with, I'm sure you've heard of the school UVU. There was a big Charlie Kirk shootout there that happened. I'm friends with the rodeo coach who works at that school. And so that's how I got into the rodeo stuff in the first place. And I announced their rodeo and all of that. Anyways, so I started there. But before I was with them, where I live now, I was performing for a softball team. I was doing fundraisers for the softball team for the high school here. Well, when the coach hired me, I would come down and work with the team on self-confidence, focus and concentration, and performance anxiety. So I started working with that team, and that's when I started getting with sports. Then that same school started hiring me for the wrestlers, and so I started working with wrestlers, and then I started seeing individual people. So now I work with all sorts of sports. It doesn't have to just be rodeo.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't want to make an assumption, but would those other athletes have some of the same types of issues, performance issues that a rider would, where they have their good out and then they go blank for 6 seconds until they get bucked off, or does it vary by sport?
It's different. Yeah, it's different. So their focus is just on what was just stated. What I've been finding with other sports, like let's use softball, for example, a big thing that the coach will say is don't swing at the high ones. Well, as hypnotists, we know that if I say don't think of an elephant, what did you just think of? An elephant. Don't think of a blue bouncing ball. What did you just think of? A blue bouncing ball. Now, don't think of an elephant playing with that blue bouncing ball. Don't think of that, or a helicopter flying ahead. Don't think of that stuff, right? The brain goes there. So when the coach says don't swing at a high one, what do they swing at? The high ones. So I teach them in hypnosis is, okay, anytime you hear the word don't, that means big red X. So when the coach says don't swing at the high one, and a high one's coming at you, we're going to picture a big red X. And I use that in hypnosis. I do over and over. Don't swing at the high ones, boom, big red X over that. Where do you want to swing? And I ask them, where do you want to swing? In the strike zone. Perfect. And so that's what I have them focus on, is only swinging in the strike zone, and have them replaying that over and over as a visualization technique every night. Same thing with football. Don't go out of bounds. Soccer, don't kick it out of bounds. Wrestling. Big thing with wrestling is breathing. They get pinned and then they hold their breath. And so I have them focus on their breathing techniques.
Interesting.
If a teenager, this happens a lot in teens, is they'll be doing really good in practice and then they fall apart at the game. Performance anxiety, why is that? Is it the stress of the event, or is it because grandma and grandpa are here watching you, or mom and dad? Right, so that could be an issue. So we're trying to figure out what's going on, and that all comes out in the intake form is, what's happening, what's going on, and then I have them breathe through it, relax, and give themselves triggers. If they have a really good swing, tap the bat to remember how to hold the bat, how to stand, how to swing, those types of things.
All right. Now, let's change gears just a little bit, because you're also an author.
Yes.
I looked up your book. It is available on Amazon. Tell us a little bit about the book and who would it benefit?
Okay, so I've got 2 books. I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
I only saw one, so there's 2. Okay.
So I've got 2 books. They actually came out about 3 weeks apart. So one book I have is called Does God Still Love You? And the other book I have is called Questions Hypnotists Should Ask Their Clients.
That's the one that I saw.
Okay, gotcha. So back to that forensics thing, and I started learning how to ask questions. I started learning, after I started teaching and becoming an instructor, that a lot of my students were saying, hey, I just don't know what questions to ask. I don't know how to go about this. So what I've done is I've created a bunch of different things. So questions you should ask for success, questions you should ask for weight loss, questions you should ask for making money, questions you should ask for sports performance. And I've got questions from the past, current questions, and future questions. So for instance, let's go to sports, since we've been talking about sports real quick. Past focus questions. What age did you start participating and what drew you to them? Can you recall a time when you felt that you performed at your best? Have you ever experienced significant setbacks or failures in your sport? So there's past questions, right? I'm getting kind of an idea. I'm putting the puzzle pieces together. Present focus questions. How do you describe your current level of performance in your sport? What specific skills or areas do you need improvement on right now to reach your peak performance? On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident you feel in your abilities as an athlete? And then I ask questions for the future. So future questions would be, what specific goals do you have? What do you envision yourself as a peak performer? What mental skills do you have or would like to have? So that's kind of how I've organized that book, is 10 past, 10 present, and 10 future questions.
Nice. Yeah. Well, and we know from practice and from clients that you can start in the now, go back, and then go forward, and go back and forth enough times, and create a completely different pattern for them moving forward. So
yeah,
and that future pacing is it's an amazing tool when it's applied properly. So
yes, absolutely.
All right.
You mentioned about you do some auctioneer stuff there as well. How important do you think it is for us as hypnotists, not just performers, but also hypnotherapists, to kind of get that stage time and that presenting time in, kind of, time on a microphone presenting?
I think it's very important. And I also feel, I don't want to attack any hypnotist. That's not what I'm about. But I was watching a hypnotist, and he had this music that was pretty quick, very aggressive type of music, and his personality was very slow and methodical. And so I talked to him afterwards, and I said, because he was asking me questions and some advice, and I was mentoring him, and I said, think of yourself as a wolf, right? So you're coming on, you're wanting to be very powerful and aggressive and that kind of a thing, but your music is not matching your personality, and it's very important to have those two together because it's throwing too much confusion into the audience. So I think back to the watching yourself and watching how you're doing it. What do I need to do? Do I need to slow down? Do I need to speed up? And that's important. Back to your question about the stage time, hearing yourself, learning how to hear how you sound, that's a big wake-up call for a lot of people, is because they don't feel they sound the same on the microphone as they do in real life. And because I've done rodeo, I did dance instruction, I've heard myself since I was probably 18 on a microphone, so that wasn't an issue for me. But I know it is for a lot of people, is to hearing themselves on the microphone and to get comfortable with that.
Yeah. I'm going to give a shout out to Jen, who is joining us on TikTok. She is a longtime supporter and actually friend from another province that we won't mention, Manitoba. But no, it's all good. The way that, and I actually noticed this myself last night. I was wrapping up a course that I was teaching for a university research project, and I noticed that the way that I said hypnosis, I was kind of muffling the last, it's kind of like hypnosis, and it stuck with me. But I wouldn't have noticed that if I wasn't paying attention, like you said, to how I was enunciating things. And I know I have an outrageous Western Canadian accent, at least Grant thinks so. But it is something that when we're performing and we're communicating with people, they need to be able to understand what we're saying. So that can take a lot of work for some people.
It can, and every venue is different. Like if you're performing in a gym and you got an echo, you got to figure out how to work with that. And sometimes you have to turn your bass so far down to not get that weird echo. It messes with your head when you're talking. Or a cement building or something like that, or home gyms. That's another big issue. And you've got to learn how to, if you have your own sound equipment, you need to learn the difference between your highs, your mids, your lows, how far to pull your microphone away from your hand, or how far away to hold your hand from your microphone. And I just watch a lot of hypnotists do this. They're just holding it clear out here. It's like, you're going to get a bunch of echo coming this way. You've got to hold it really close to your mouth and turn your volume down so that you're into the microphone. And that's just practice and playing with it and figuring out what works for you. And brands of microphones are different. A Sennheiser is going to be different than a Shure, which can be different than a Gemini, and you got to figure out which one works for you. And that's just practicing with that.
Yeah. Well, I know from experience that my voice is very different. I would have been fine in the 50s and 60s. So for those of you that are young that are listening, that's the 1950s and 60s. Where the microphone condensers picked up that mid-range voice. That's my voice. But the microphones now, especially when I was speaking at our church and filling in for the pastor, it was always tough to figure out what the setting was for my voice, whether I had to crank it up or pull it back or add some more. But it just never seemed to sound exactly right. And part of it was the building itself, because there was a lot of sound that bounced off the walls there too. But fast forward now to my own microphone set. Now I know what to set my voice at, but that's taken some discovery. So
yeah.
And have yet, excuse me. I should say I've yet to perform in a gym, but I've been in enough school gyms to know that echo that you're talking about, because none of the gymnasiums have, very, very few would have any kind of baffling to muffle that kind of sound. So.
And it depends. If you got bleachers in front of you and you're facing the audience, that's going to be different than if they're sitting on the floor, because now you're bouncing off the walls. Or it's just all different. It's every place is different.
Yeah, no, that's good. The one thing that I know, that I took away from PHS and from a couple of the technical sessions was invest in good equipment. So
yes.
So I have my Bose S1s here. I'm actually going to pull them out next week when I'm off and away from the real job. I have some time to start playing again, so that I can get a little more practice in with changing the settings and what does this do and how does this work and so on and so forth. And the reason for that, of course, is that when I hit the road, especially when we get into November, December, and maybe early January, that Christmas season is, like you said, it's so busy, and Grant knows firsthand what it's like to drive in Saskatchewan in the middle of winter now. And by winter, I mean like minus 50-ish winter, or rain, freezing on the highway winter, and so on and so forth. So it was a wild one this year. You just you need to get there, and you need to know that your equipment is going to work the way that you expect it to.
Yes, and I know a lot of people, when they start out, they just want to buy $100 microphone and a $100 speaker, and I get it. I did that, and you get 10 shows in and your microphone breaks, and then what do? You don't have a backup, and you're SOL. So I've always got a backup. I've got my headset and I've got a handheld, so I can always flip and flop between the two. I usually use both, because my handheld I use for the volunteers, but I have my headset for me. But if that goes out, boom, it's coming off and I'm right to my handheld. The audience has no idea that just happened. But my microphones are $600 a piece. And I know that sounds expensive, but when this is your full-time job, like, it's not.
And no, it's just a tool like any other.
Yeah. And I know that microphone's going to work, and I don't have to worry about it when I show up.
Yeah.
But when you have a $100 microphone and you're 30 shows in, and all of a sudden it just stops on you, you're like, well, now what? And you don't know that it goes out, because you're not at home practicing with it, right? It only goes out when you're at a show. And so it's very important to have good equipment, for sure. And I know it sounds expensive, but you'll make it back, I promise you, if you're promoting and marketing and doing the things you need to do.
Yeah.
It's one of the things, and I think it's quite important as well, kind of going back to the stage side of stuff. It's like yourself. Once you're doing 100 plus shows a year, you get those reps in, and you get to figure out the things that are important. You know how important a microphone is. You know how important the sound is. If you're doing half a dozen shows a year, the learning curve is going to be a little bit slower. But it's.
Yep, absolutely. And here's when you said those reps in. When I first started, the first year I did 2 shows. I did 2 fundraisers, and then I did 4 fundraisers, and then I did some shows. The next year I did some shows, and then some fundraisers. And so then it was 16, and then it was 31. And I used to get nervous. I used to get so nervous to get on stage. It's like, first of all, is anybody going to show up? Okay, am I going to get them hypnotized? Okay, and you just go through this routine, and then once the show starts, you're okay. But it's that nervousness. Once you hit, at least for me, once I hit that 30 shows a year, that went away. So know that if you're nervous and you're a new performer, once you hit so many shows per month, you got the reps in, you're kind of doing it, and you don't puke before a show anymore because you're so nervous.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I know some new teachers that are like that. You know, they'll come in and they will be just so shy around the kids, like just enough to control them, but not actually where you see it as an experienced teacher that can sit down and actually joke with the kids, and as you're doing it, you're still teaching them, something. So, I don't want to say subliminally, but I mean, some of the best teachers will employ all kinds of methods, and Jen would know because she's a fellow teacher. But you don't get to be like that until you go through the reps and you go through the motions. And to me, one of the best things that I ever did in my teaching career starting out was I told my supervising teacher, said, look, sit down. I'm not going to sit here for 3 months doing nothing, watching you teach when I could be the one teaching. And he said, that's great. And then he took off and left me alone with the kids, which I don't know. It was good or bad, but the kids seemed to like it. So, but yeah, it was just, if you're going to go. I don't want to say burn the boats because that's you need to get home after the show, but but that same mentality of if you're gonna go all in and bring a show that entertains. If that's what you advertise for, bring a presentation that is going to add value to the company that hired you. Whatever that is. Definitely jump in and do your due diligence to make sure that when you're on the other side of it, people are giving you nothing but 5-star reviews.
Yes.
So, speaking of that, I mentioned a little bit about Steve, kind of behind the scenes working some of the equipment, and this was a while ago. I think pretty sure he was still in Utah, and we were yakking back and forth on Facebook or something like that, Messenger or whatever. He said to me, and again, we're not outing anybody, but he said to me that your show is in the top 5 of shows that he's ever seen. So tell us a little bit about what goes into your show that makes it that special, because I'll tell you what, I will trust Steve's opinion on almost anything.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. When you say what goes into my show, what do you mean?
Yeah. So what is it that you're bringing that is maybe a little different? I mean, we talked a little about the fact that you're now branded as the Hypno Hick, and you're bringing that type of energy. But what else goes into that show that maybe is different when you're putting on the big performance versus I've also seen where you've had a smaller show in a mansion with a smaller group, that you're still able to provide that same level of comedy and entertainment, and people are loving it, and they're involved and they're invested in what's going on with the volunteers.
Gotcha. So I think there's 2 things that I do, the beginning and the ending. The beginning, I explain hypnosis. I'm very open what hypnosis is and what it's not, which a lot of hypnotists that I watch don't do that. I've not seen every hypnotist, obviously, but from what I've seen is it's not a big thing for people. They want to get people on stage as soon as possible, do the show, and get off. And it's kind of like, man, I think that's super important to explain what hypnosis is, to dispel the fears and the myths about hypnosis. So that's the first thing, is I don't want to be hokey or the I'm in control of you and you will obey me, because that's not what hypnosis is. So I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing is at the end of the show, I do an empowering thing. And I know this is starting to come across to a lot of hypnotists lately. It didn't used to be like that. I was the first one that I know of that ever started doing this, which is empowering people. So at the end, I have them imagine something that they want to achieve in their life, and they stand up and say, I empower at the very end of the show. And that has been very, very powerful for a lot of people. And I think that people like that. I don't do anything dirty. When I started doing shows, I made a commitment to myself that I was going to never do a show that I'd be embarrassed for my grandma to be at. And I've kept that for myself forever. And I think that's really big, especially in Utah. They don't want to see anything dirty. I can perform at a bar and do just as clean of a show as I will at a high school. It's still just as funny, right? And that's really powerful. And then my skits, I call them skits, but routines or whatever you want to call them. I just put twists on them. So, it's like a cheeseburger, right? McDonald's has a cheeseburger, but Burger King has a cheeseburger, so it's different. You put lettuce, you put tomato on it, or everybody kind of puts their twist on their routine. So the voodoo doll, for instance, I use a Woody doll. So I'm doing the Woody doll instead of a voodoo doll, right? So because it matches the Hypno Hick. I use a funny cowboy song with it. So that's kind of my routine, is I kind of make it my own. Which is what we're supposed to do anyways with the routine. You can only do so many things. We only have 5 senses. So you get hot, you get cold, you get, the taste, the touch, the feel, the smells. You just put your routine on it, or your twist. And I spend a lot of time on that. I spend a lot of time also in my brain saying, okay, I've got 2 group skits together now. I did this before where I would do a single skit. Okay, you're going to dance like Michael Jackson. You're going to dance like Britney Spears. And now you're going to not say your name. And now I'm doing these single skits. Well, these guys are popping out of hypnosis now because they're not doing anything. So they're just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. So I've learned to go, okay, I'm going to do 2 group, 1 single, or maybe 2 single back to the group. So I'm constantly paying attention to how that's working.
Yeah. The one thing that I was able to do was actually do over Christmas. I had three shows. It was 3 different Fridays, and the Brian and I kind of wrote the skit together. And the premise was Santa comes in for a crash landing, and the genesis was this was at a car dealership. Was the first show.
Okay.
And so Santa comes in for a crash landing. He's got Mrs. Claus with him, and some elves, however many elves there happens to be that I can make elves. And then one person is the salesperson who, if he happens to sell Santa a new vehicle, gets his Christmas bonus for like $250,000, right?
Okay.
And I will be damned, in all 3 shows, I set it up exactly the same way. Mrs. Claus drove off with a brand new red Lamborghini, all 3 shows. I'm not lying. And left Mr. Claus to take the broken sleigh and the elves back as far as they could, I didn't force it. I didn't explain it that way, but in all 3 shows, and I don't know why a Lamborghini. I mean, we're in northern Manitoba, northern Saskatchewan. It's not the vehicles that you would drive down any of those highways. You'd probably lose it in a pothole somewhere. Oh. Well, and now for something completely different.
Yes.
While we are waiting for Shaun to come back, we should mention that the friend or frenemy question is coming up. So place your bets. Is Shaun a friend or a frenemy? And like I said, we'll get him back right away. Thoughts so far, Grant?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to listen to a fellow professional as well. And again, when someone's got hundreds of shows under the belt, or hundreds of shows a year under the belt, they know their stuff as well, if you know what I mean. Yeah. But I love the balance of doing the sports, the performance, and the therapy as well. And we're going back to your spot there. I love it when routines evolve and then become something then. So I have a routine I'm doing at the moment that was it started off, I was on my way to a show up on an island in Scotland, and somebody on TikTok has just said, when you come up, any chance you could hypnotize my friend into being a T-Rex? Because apparently he's got really short arms. that's now a staple routine in my show.
There you
So it's just it happened naturally, and now it's just I'm still fine tuning and polishing it, but I love it when routines kind of create themselves.
Yeah. Well, what was unique about this show at the dealership was the guy who was the salesperson was actually one of the. I think he was like the maintenance guy. He wasn't a salesperson at all. He did a bang up
Yeah.
job selling. The elves really didn't do much. They just kept saying they couldn't fix the sleigh, and it was the owner who was Santa Claus, and I'm sure his administrative assistant, because they were arguing before they were out of hypnosis. Like I was on bringing them out one, and they were already sorry. She was already saying, you're not buying it.
Yes,
So
definitely.
it's obvious they've had those types of discussions before.
Yeah. The Lamborghini in those parts of the world is probably not the best type of vehicle.
Yeah. No, and it was weird because it didn't matter where it was. Like it was like that. The last show was in Meadow Lake, and the show before that was in Melville, and which is just down the road from me. That one you could kind of make a case for. Yeah, you could drive a Lamborghini, at least get it to Regina without losing it, as long as the roads were clear. But and I mean, the roads, so but overall, all three shows, it was just really weird that it was a red Lamborghini that the missus drove off with, and I think once Santa Claus got to have a matching Lamborghini, so that might have been in Melville. At least they were nice about that. So, but yeah, it this year as things evolve, and I know I'm going to be at a daycare, so I can fine tune that skit even more because now I can include. For the fundraiser, I'm going to assume the kids are going to be around and families and whatnot. So I can really, play on that, and build that up for them. So, but yeah, it's, like you say, and exactly what Shaun said, you have to work at it, make it better, pick it apart. And it's uncomfortable. I think, you think you've done absolutely stellar, and you probably have. But when you sit down and you look at it and you dispassionately say, okay, what can I make better? And you start making notes, all of a sudden you realize, well, damn it, it was good. It wasn't great, And then you want to go drown your sorrows and and then you realize, wait a minute, it was good,
Yeah. If you aim to just be like 10% better for your next show, what can you do to improve that 10%? And there's always something. Blocking's the main thing for me sometimes, and for a lot of hypnotists, when you think, where you're positioned in comparison to what the audience can see. And so, that makes a big difference, I think.
Yeah. Let's see here. So it looks like his computer died, so he'll be back in a minute or so. No worries. That's the technical troubles when you're live are always possible. They're always possible. I think people forget that we're dealing with free floating electrons that we're forcing down a circuit.
It's the joys of going live.
Yeah. No, it is. All right. So while we are waiting, and we have there we go. There he is.
Hey, sorry, my computer died. It's been plugged in, and I don't know what just happened, but it was not charging when I plugged in. Sorry about that.
No worries. We just went and did a whole Monty Python skit, and now for something completely different.
Right. Okay, so I heard up to the Lamborghini part, so they ended up
so anyway, what I found interesting was that in all three shows, Mrs. Claus drove away with a brand new red Lamborghini. Now, northern Manitoba, northern Saskatchewan, and even east central Saskatchewan, where I am right now, the roads are not really supportive of cars that can bottom out when there's more than an inch difference between the pothole and because we lost Grant now. It must be a Tuesday technical issue, but what I found was as I worked through all of that, the car dealership, of course, it made total sense that we would do that skit exactly that way. The owner and his administrative assistant were Mr. and Mrs. Claus, and before I even got to two, counting them up into the skit, they were already arguing with each other. So I could tell they already had these types of discussions more than once. So, and I kind of figured he was going to wind up losing. So that was okay. We could play it out. But
Right.
the guys got their Christmas bonuses. The salespeople. The second show, the best quote out of that was, I asked one of the elves, like, "Is this fixable?" And he just looked at me, and he had that glassy eyed look, and he said, "No, it's fucked." All right, so much for we're now PG-13. Okay,
Right.
And the last show, that skit went over really, really well. But the last show that I did right before Christmas, I actually had somebody, and I don't know if you've ever had this in your career. I actually had somebody get up, walk off stage, and go to the bathroom. And so as he was, I caught him as he got down the stairs. I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I need to use the bathroom." I said, "Okay." And I kind of jokingly said to the crowd, "Listen, make sure I don't say that word." A little bit of a chuckle, because the bathroom, like, it was in earshot of everything, and we were right in the middle of Christmas tech. You just got the world's greatest shoe phone, and you're talking to your buddies, but as he left, that's what he had. He had a shoe in his hand, talking, and I switched it up because I couldn't wait for him anymore. I said, "Now it's a video phone. Like, you just got an upgrade, woohoo!" And they're all on stage with their video phones. He comes walking out of the bathroom talking on his video phone, and everybody's just like, it was like a perfect moment. And I said, "Look, like, that's why you didn't want me to say that word." You would have had a problem in the bathroom. So,
Yes. Yeah.
but it's just some of those things that happen, that you can, and Grant and I were talking about it, picking it apart afterwards to make it better. Well, what made the first skit really good was the owner and his administrative assistant. What made the second skit good was the fact that the elves were involved. And then the last one, it didn't go over quite as well, but it still wound up with Mrs. Claus driving away with a red Lamborghini.
Huh.
I have no idea what it was about Lamborghinis last year, but anyway, what can I say?
Yeah.
Have you ever had anybody kind of leave the stage and come back, or?
I have. I've had, like, sometimes I'll just wake up randomly. And I was at a fair one time and I said, "Whoa, what just happened?" And she goes, "I hear my baby crying." So she heard her baby crying from the audience. So that'll wake people up.
Oh, yeah.
People just won't be under, so they'll get up and walk off anyways. I set it up to where I tell them that I'm going to shake their hand and have them have a seat, but sometimes they just are done. And I have had people get up to go to the bathroom. I now try to tell them every time before a show, "Hey, we got 10 minutes before the show. Go use the restroom. Come back when you're ready." That doesn't get told every show, but you try. I actually had somebody pee on stage once. That was awful.
Yeah.
It was at a high school grad party. Yeah, that was not fun. And it was because I gave them laughing gas and they were laughing with each other. And then she had it on her hands and I said, "Oh, it's funny, huh?" And she goes, "Yeah, it's so funny. I got to pee." And I said, "No, you don't." And as soon as I said, "No, you don't," she just stood up and just peed. And then that happens, or it has happened once.
Yeah.
And you just deal with it. And, the two people next to her woke up and you have mop, and hopefully somebody will come around with mop, which happened. Somebody had a mop and came around and mopped it up, and you continue and do the show. Luckily, I was about done. So just kind of wrapped up the show.
Yeah. Wow.
You have things happen. I used to do the onion thing where they eat an onion, but they think it's an apple. And I was at a place where big Samoan guy, I have him eat the onion, wake him up. He's like, "Oh, what'd you have me eat, bro?" And he looks over and sees a soda fountain, runs over, puts his head underneath there, starts drinking Coke, comes back to the stage and puked all over the stage.
Oh.
So apparently Coke and onions don't go well together.
All right. Duly noted.
So you learn, right? You learn.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's interesting. And that actually almost leads into our friend or frenemy question, which we'll ask in just a moment. So you guys have a moment to get your your votes in. Is Shaun a friend or a frenemy? First of all, he's a fellow Shaun, so we're gonna be friends regardless.
Sweet.
But friend or frenemy is a question that it goes all the way back to Jim Kellner, and we'll ask that in a minute. Just before we do, if there was one myth about hypnosis that you could just erase from the world, what would it be?
The biggest one that I hear, because I live in Utah, the biggest one I hear is that you're opening your minds to satanic or demonic activity. That is not true. 100% not true. We go in and out of hypnosis 7 to 10 times every single day, right? You've heard the saying. We actually spend more time in hypnosis than we don't.
Yeah.
So that cannot happen. That's the biggest one, the biggest myth I wish we could erase.
Yeah. I have kids all the time. Once they find out, oh, wait a minute, he's also a hypnotist? Well, hypnotize me, and you can imagine what 30 screaming kids are like in a classroom. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. How do you know you're not already? Silence. Because now they're thinking about, wait a minute, what is he talking about? Am I really? Maybe I am. And now they're questioning, and now I have control of the class again, right? Asking a question like that just flips it over. And I've had discussions with people who have told me that what I do is satanic, and the only thing I can do is answer it with a question. Well, you think that? Why do you think that? And to get them thinking about what they're thinking about, and sometimes they can actually talk themselves out of it. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not so bad, and then you can pull out the scientific evidence and say, it's been studied.
Yeah. So it looks like Grant's messaging the group.
Yeah, it looks like his feed is not letting him get back on. He says it keeps sticking.
Okay.
So, let's see here. Lost internet. Yeah. So. Well, in Great Britain, I suppose that's entirely possible. They have lots of weird roads and whatnot that kind of wind around castles and stuff. So who knows where the internet went? It's all good. All right, we will get on to the friend or frenemy question here, and this one is going to go straight to you. But I need to pull up my sound effects here because it's either going to be a really good one or it's going to be not a really good one. The friend or frenemy question is this. When you order pizza, so Shaun Christensen, when you order pizza, is pineapple on your pizza? Yes
only
or no?
Canadian bacon. That's the only one I'll put pineapple on.
So as a Canadian, I will apologize to the world yet again for unleashing the ham and pineapple Hawaiian pizza on the rest of the earth. That was invented in Ontario. So, but yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. I just
You don't like pineapple on your pizza.
no ham. I have no problem with. You can load it up with pretty much any kind of meat that you want, but not pineapple.
Not pineapple. All right.
And Jim used to have shirts made, and actually Becca has one. And he had that was his marketing, part of his marketing. Everybody knew Jim Kellner, and Jim Kellner does not like pineapple. And then after that, then it was Damn I'm Pretty, and then a few other things. But I can remember we were at Hypnothoughts it was just after COVID. Steve was there, 2021 or 21, and we had another guy from the Hypno Hustle group that was desperately trying to get the Sbarro in the Orleans to deliver 20 ham and pineapple pizzas to the group so that he could just nail Jim with it, but they wouldn't do it. So, this is just one of those things, and I don't know. To me, if I'm gonna have pizza, I don't need to have the extra sweet. So,
Gotcha.
but it's okay. It's
It's not
okay.
the one I normally order. I normally order like the cowboy pizza, but
Yeah. To each. Well, okay. What's cowboy pizza?
just mostly meat.
Mostly meat. Yeah. So there is a style of pizza, and I don't know. In Canada, we call it the Regina style, where they just layer on salami, ham, pepperoni, bacon, sauce. Like it's like 10 stacks of meat and then some cheese on top with some onions maybe and maybe some green peppers or jalapenos or something like that. But it is essentially a thick slice of meat.
All right.
So someday, if you make it up here, we'll go for Regina style pizza.
Excellent.
So all good. All right. This is typically the portion of the show where our guest can opt to lead a short hypnosis session, something beneficial, something something funny, whatever the case may be. I know we started a little bit late. I'm not sure where your timeline is at, but if you do have time and you want to do that, I will turn over the broadcast to you. And if not, no worries. We will move that to the next broadcast, which is actually coming up next week. So,
All right. I'm good.
you're good? Okay. So then we will pull up this wonderful disclaimer. And I always talk about the fact that Mike Mandel has this wonderful disclaimer, and he just has a field day with it. But for us, because we are live, and even for you guys on TikTok, just remember, hypnosis relies on focus. So if you need to focus on your current circumstances, you're driving, you're cooking, and that's important because I did have somebody on TikTok who was chopping vegetables and stopped chopping vegetables when I said, hey, if you're doing something where you can fall down or injure yourself, don't listen. So if you need to turn us off, we get it. But you can always come back and see us again on YouTube. And eventually we'll be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But whatever it is, if you need to focus on your current circumstances, great. If not, get yourself into a comfortable spot where you're not going to, relax and whack your head on the corner of a table or something like that. So, lay down on the floor or the sofa, or your bed, whatever that is. And Shaun, I will turn it over to you, and I will duck behind the scenes so that I'm not a distraction to anybody else. I'll keep monitoring chats and all of that, and come back as soon as you are done.
Perfect. So before I begin, what I would like to explain is a lot of consulting hypnotists, hypnotherapists get really, really concerned about the induction. And that's a big question a lot of people have. Well, I don't know which induction to use, or how long should the induction be, or anything like that. I have learned that an induction can be super, super quick. For instance, if I say close your eyes and imagine yourself in an elevator, what color's the doors? You say whatever color they are, let's say silver, and then imagine 3 buttons. That's my induction. And then all I'm going to do after that is a deepener. And people say, well, how's that an induction? Because if you're visualizing yourself in an elevator, you're already accessing the subconscious mind. So once I access that subconscious mind, all we have to do at that point is do a deepener. So that's what I'm going to do with you guys so you can experience what that feels like. So go ahead and find yourself in a comfortable position, whether you're lying down or sitting down. Again, as the disclaimer says, if you need to focus on your circumstances, I hope by now you've turned off the podcast. So find yourself relaxing, and when you're ready, take a deep breath in and exhale when it feels perfect for you. When you're ready, take another deep breath in and exhale all the way down. Whatever feels good for you. You're in control. It's kind of like you're the engine and I'm the steering wheel, and I'm going to guide you into a nice state of relaxation. We're going to do another deep breath in, and if you've not closed your eyes yet, go ahead and allow yourself to take a deep breath in. And now close your eyes all the way down. With your eyes closed and you're feeling the object underneath you support you, whether it's a bed, a couch, a chair, it doesn't matter. I want you to imagine yourself in some sort of an elevator. And I want you to imagine the elevator doors are closing if they're not done so already, and just notice what you notice. What color might the doors be? Where are you in relation to the elevator? Are you in the front by the doors? Are you in the middle, in the back, or the side, or in front of the buttons? Where are you in relation to the elevator? Are you alone or are you with someone? Assuming you're alone, allow my voice to be here with you. And I want you to imagine the buttons on the elevator. I want you to imagine 3 buttons, in fact, and I'm going to call them A, B, and C. And imagine or pretend that you're on an upper floor, and in a moment you're going to press the A button. When you press the A button, let the elevator start to move down. And as the elevator moves down, let your body and your mind start to relax. And then you'll press the B button, going down into a nicer state of relaxation, and then a C button, going down into a nice state of relaxation. Now, most of you listening to this have been hypnotized before. So allow yourself to just relax and open your mind and allow yourself to go to a nice state of relaxation. So imagine now you're pressing the A button and let the elevator start to move down. As the elevator moves down, you can wiggle your toes, let your toes and your feet start to relax, and your shins and your calf muscles, and your ankles and your knees and your thighs and your hamstrings relax. And even your hips can relax. It's almost as if you had complete control over your body and you could command the lower half of your body to now relax. When you're ready, go ahead and take another deep breath in. And as you exhale, let your stomach muscles relax, and your lower back and your upper back. You can bring your attention to your fingers if you'd like and wiggle those and let those start to relax. And now press the B button, going down even deeper, letting your wrists and your forearms and your elbows relax. Your biceps, your triceps, and your shoulders can relax. Whatever that feels like for you. Your neck and your head can relax. And I want you to repeat in your mind after me. So just in your mind, repeat after me. I feel calm. I feel relaxed. I feel in control. And that's because you're in control. I'm just guiding you to a state of relaxation. And now press the C button, going down even deeper into a nice state of mental, physical, and psychological relaxation. Whatever that feels like for you. Soon, the elevator is going to come to a stop. When it does, let the elevator doors open. And then I want you to imagine you're somewhere outside, in a really nice place somewhere outside. Maybe a place you've been to before, maybe one you've never been to before. It doesn't matter. And as the elevator comes to a stop, let the elevator doors open. And I want you to imagine as if you could step outside into a nice place somewhere outside where you're supported, feeling safe and secure. And I want you to feel the ground underneath you as you exit the elevator. Just notice what you notice. What does the ground look like? Are you alone or are you with someone? Is it daytime or nighttime outside? The air has a certain temperature on your skin. Is it warm or is it cool? And I want to go on a journey. So let's imagine as if we could just go on a journey and just go for a walk and just notice the pathway as you leave where you are currently, leaving this elevator area, going outside and just wandering, and just notice what you notice. Is there plants or any greenery? What might it look like? Is there water around? What might it look like or sound like? Is there any animals? What might it look like or sound like? And I want you to notice in the distance is an old style of home, a very welcoming home. One that you're creating in your mind, so it's very welcoming. Almost as if it's just been waiting for you to arrive for a long time. Maybe this home has a fence around it, maybe it doesn't. If it does, there's a gate and you can enter the gate area. Maybe there's a screen door, maybe there's not. If there is, go ahead and open the screen door. And because this is a very welcoming home, and it's a home you're creating in your mind, go ahead and open the front door. As you step in, you notice what you notice, the living room area and the kitchen area. And there's a hallway, and the hallway has some doors that are closed. And one of these doors opens up to a library. I want you to go find the library. It might be the first door you open, it might not. Maybe it's the second, maybe it's the third. I don't know which door will lead to the library. But find the library. When you find the library, go ahead and go inside. And I want you to turn on the light source. It could be a window shade, it could be a candle, it Maybe it's just a light switch. Maybe it's a lamp. Go ahead and turn on the light source and shut the door so it's just you and my voice in this library. And as you see the books in this library, there's tall books and short books and thick books and thin books and magazine-style books and old books and new books. There's just all these books in this library. And as you take a closer look at these books, the old ones and the new ones and the magazine-style ones, the tall ones and short ones, you start to realize that all the books in this library are of your life. Old books, new books, thin books, thick books. Some books are finished, some books aren't. Some books need to be finished, some books don't. But all the books in here are of your life, sad times and happy times and childhood times, maybe adult times. If you're married, maybe there's married times. Some of you might have had a divorce, it could be divorce times. Like I said, happy times, sad times. All the books in this library of your life. And some of these books in this library are not benefiting you anymore. So let's get rid of the books that aren't benefiting you anymore. And I want you to put them on the floor. So you'll find a book that doesn't benefit you anymore, put it on the floor, and then another one, put it on the floor. And just go through all these books. Make a pile of books that aren't benefiting you anymore. Go ahead and put them on the floor. I'll give you about 30 seconds to finish up. So take your time and go through all the books. Just go ahead and find the books that aren't benefiting you, put them on the floor. I'll give you about 20 more seconds to finish up. Good. And now I want you to look at all the books on the floor. Now, all these books on the floor made you who you are. They've created the person that you are today. And some of these books on the floor are not happy times, but they still created who you are. So give them thanks. Just send thanks, gratitude to the books. And what they've been doing is just taking up space on the shelves, but they're not benefiting you anymore. So let's destroy these books that are here on the floor. So you can light them on fire, you can explode them, you can be like Harry Potter and make them disappear. However you want to destroy these books. Put them in a paper shredder, throw them out the window. I don't care how you destroy them. Just destroy all the books in here. And when they're destroyed, I want you to go ahead and look at the shelves again. And where you took a book off the shelf, you created a little space. Then you took another book off the shelf, and you created another little space, and then another little space. So what I want you to do is I want you to slide all the books to one side of the shelf or the other side of the shelf. It doesn't matter, right or left, doesn't matter. But what you're doing is you're creating a bigger space on the shelf. So slide all the books to one side. Now, go ahead and do that. And as you look at the space on the shelves that you're creating, you get to realize all the books that you just destroyed were written about you. But now, you get to decide from this point forward what gets put on the shelves. So wherever you are in life, you get to decide from this point forward what gets put on the shelf. And you can move forward, and you're in control. And as you're standing in this room, I want you to find some sort of a paper, maybe a pen or a marker or a crayon, it doesn't matter. Find the pad of paper, and I want you to write on this pad of paper. I'm going to give you the option to write 3 words. The words that I'm going to come up with is, I am enough. Now you might change that. I am happy, I am loved, I am worthy, whatever that is for you. I like the words, I am enough. I want you to write this on this paper and put that somewhere in this room where it can play in the background of your mind. And anytime you're not feeling that thing, I am not happy, I'm not loved, I am not enough, I want you to just let this play in your mind that you are enough. But what's interesting is those 3 words have different emphasis based on where you put the emphasis of the word. So if you say, I am enough, that means you as the person, you are enough. I am enough has a different feeling associated with it. That's you as a person, complete and whole, as you are enough. And then I am enough means, again, complete and whole. It's just different. So you as a person are enough, or you as an entity are complete and whole as enough. So feel that. I am enough. I am enough. And I am enough. And so as you learn in self-hypnosis, you can give yourself affirmations. When you tell yourself affirmations, you can just say, I am enough, or you can put emphasis on each three words. And that's what I recommend you do. So as you're driving down the road, or you're walking down a hallway, you can say, I am enough. Yeah, I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. And let that just all sink in deeply into the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, or whatever the phrase was you said. Now, you may have put I am enough, and you might want to change that later. You have the ability to go back to the library anytime you choose and change the emphasis or the wording or the phrasing, change the affirmation, or add one, whatever you want to do. And now, let's go ahead and leave that room. Let's go ahead and turn off the light source and close the door, realizing that you just created some space. Maybe have some forgiveness of some of your past. Maybe it's forgiveness of self, maybe forgiveness of others, and just released it. It's been taking up space in your library and in your mind. And you don't need to hold on to that anymore. It's just taking up space. You aren't going to forget the memory. You're just going to let go of the hold that it has on you, so that now you created space for you to move forward, and you get to decide what gets written about you and put on these shelves from this point forward. Now, at any time you want to choose to come back to this home that you've created and go back to the library, you can do so. You just close your eyes, imagine yourself somewhere outside, going down a pathway, coming to this home. You want to go back to the library, you can, and get rid of some other books that you and I may not have gotten rid of at this point. So now let's go back down the hallway, going back into the living room of this home. And let's go ahead and exit the home, knowing you can come back here anytime you choose. Going back down the pathway. And as you're walking down the pathway, coming back towards the elevator, notice how you feel. Do you feel lighter? Feel heavier? How do you feel? How's your body feel? How's your breathing? How are you standing? What do the colors look like? Are they more vivid or not? Let's go back to the elevator. Bringing back with you the forgiveness of self, forgiveness of past, forgiveness of other people, knowing that you get to decide what gets written about you and put on the shelves. From this point forward, you are in control of your life, your destination. Now, let's step back into the elevator. So if you've not arrived at the elevator, do so now. Go back to the elevator. Step inside. Take a deep breath in, letting all that just sink in deeply. The elevator doors close. And right now you're on level C, so go ahead and press the B button coming up. Bringing back with you the feelings, the release that you might feel, the letting go of the holding on to things that have been really holding you back possibly. Now press the A button coming up even higher, becoming more and more aware of your surroundings. Now the elevator doors open and you're sitting or lying on the piece of furniture that you're sitting or lying on. Feel yourself, notice where you are, feel the surroundings around you. And on the count of 7, I want you to open your eyes and stretch. See how good you feel. Just by releasing that one, just spending a few minutes to release those things that have been holding you back, taking up space on your shelves and in your mind and in your thoughts, and just let them go so that you can move forward. So 1, take a deep breath in. 2, exhale all the way down. On the number 7, your eyes are going to open. I want you to stretch and see how good you feel. 3, 4, and 5, starting to emerge from hypnosis, feeling the object underneath you support you, hearing my voice, back into the room, starting to emerge from hypnosis. 3, 4, 5, 6. On the next number, I want you to open your eyes, stretch, and see how good you feel. 3, 4, 5, 6, and on number 7, go ahead and open your eyes and stretch, and see how good you feel.
All right. And as soon as you're done stretching, by all means, let us know how that was for you. It's we always get good reports back. People experience some really cool things, and what I loved about this was the whole metaphor of the house and the books and being able to clean space out, and then you can restock those shelves with what you want.
Yes,
That to me was that was good. I like that. I'm actually going to conveniently borrow that.
absolutely. It's really good, especially for people who feel out of control or
Yeah.
holding on to stuff from the past. It's really powerful.
Yeah. And that's
Something
exactly.
when I'm working one-on-one is I will also have them try to find a book that might have fallen over that's in the back. That seems to be the book that they're really holding on to. So I kind of do that.
Okay, I like it. And actually, I'm thinking of a specific client that I'm going to be working with later this week. So
Heck yeah.
that to me is going to probably help her resolve a lot of things. So
I call it the library technique. I really like it.
yeah, nice. All right. Well, Brian made it to his destination, and he said it was good to see us. I'm going to assume he's off into his meetings now, so that's good. Like I said, if you are out there and you want to let us know how that was for you, sometimes it takes a little bit to for everybody to type back. They're still stretching.
Cool.
While
I can talk to you about some marketing versus branding if you want me to talk about that really quick while they're typing.
Yeah, I was going to say that if there's anything that we didn't cover that you want to cover, now's the perfect time to do that. And then branding versus marketing is a good one, because I think there's a lot of confusion as to what is a brand versus what's marketing.
There is, and I give a presentation of this at the NGH conference in February. So the best way for me to explain it is actually to show you. So this is a brand, right?
Yep.
What is that?
Brand
Of what company is it?
YouTube.
Okay, good. Here's some brands. Whoops, sorry. My computer's backwards on my camera.
Yep,
Right.
no worries. The Enterprise, that's the car rental company, not my Starship.
Okay.
Delta Airlines, Brian would have mentioned those guys off the top. They give us a little bit of a discount. I used to work at a McDonald's. I call it my second career. Well, it was technically my first career. I really wasn't a data input operator that long, age 14 to 16, but McDonald's was my first job, if you will, and they taught me a lot about systems.
They do, and I worked at a fast food restaurant. It was called Arctic Circle here in Utah, and I learned a lot about labor costs and how to run a business and firing and hiring and working with people. Very powerful, right?
Yep.
We all know what that is.
Yep, Facebook, which
Facebook.
many of us are watching
Right.
from. Oh yes, the other guys. It's not it. That's not the Diet Coke. That's the other guys.
Yes. So this is called Pepsi, right? And the thing with this one is their brand has changed 12 times since 1898.
Yeah.
When you're creating a logo, don't worry about what it is because you can change it. Pepsi did 12 times, right? So it's okay if you don't have everything perfect when you get started. Now, a brand doesn't have to be visual. Here's a brand. McDonald's, their brand in 1970 was "You deserve a break today."
Yep.
In the 90s, it switched to "It's a good time for the great taste of McDonald's." Now their marketing is "I'm loving it."
Yep.
Coke in 1929 was "The pause that refreshes." 1969, it switched to "It's the real thing," and then 2021, it's called "The Real Magic." Pepsi in 1939 was "The choice of a new generation," and in 2020, it changed to "That's what I like." Who's this? 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
I've seen those commercials. Yeah.
The logo's a lizard.
Yeah. And I'm drawing a blank on it, but yes, Geico. There we go.
Yes. So that was their brand until 2025. Then they changed it to "It feels good" to Geico. Motel 6 has been kept the same one. "We keep the lights on," right? So they got jingles. So that's a form of branding. This is marketing, right? So we have the brand, which is McDonald's, but their marketing, $2 equals for the fish burger. So that's what marketing is now I'm taking that logo and I'm trying to get them to purchase what I want them to purchase. And that's the difference between branding versus marketing. And I think that's very helpful for us as hypnotists to know that.
Yeah, I would agree. And oftentimes we think that if we just keep sticking our logo out there, people are going to just buy, from us. And the other thing that McDonald's taught me was, what about a unique selling proposition? What's your USP? You have Hypno Hick, which is the brand, and now how you market that fits with where you want to go, right? You're in with rodeos, you're in with sports performance, and you're working the brand into everything. And as people get to know the brand even more, they're looking at what you do as you market it, and all of a sudden, wait a minute. It's like driving down, like you said, driving down the highway. My brand is on display. People get curious, and now you can market to them.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So then they go to the website, right? The brand takes them to the website. The website takes them to make a phone call or to book a show or to ask about client services. People will follow me. I've had that happen. People follow me to the grocery store, and hey, I've seen you at the show, and I've seen your truck, and I was just wondering, do you help people? Whatever. Can you help me never eat again? I get asked that all the time, right?
Yeah, I had somebody ask me. Well, it started out as can you help me not eat, overeat and so on and so forth. And I said, well, but what does that mean?
Yeah.
What because I can help you not eat. I mean, sure, we can just get a stapler and staple your lips shut, and then you're not eating. That's probably not the best solution. Let's figure out where it is that you want to go, and again, and this. Because we talked about it, that the subconscious mind always loves to jerk people around and let them explain what they don't want instead of what they do want.
Yeah, for sure.
And once you get past the what they don't want, and I don't know, for the 12 weeks that I was teaching this course that I had mentioned before, it culminated when teaching self-hypnosis techniques. And I said the very first thing is, if you ever see or feel that you want to write the word don't. Because your subconscious, I don't want to eat that cake. I don't, I'm not eating that cake. No, because your subconscious doesn't know that. All it hears is, I'm eating that cake.
Our brains are so powerful. We all know this. We're all hypnotists. It's just, my biggest thing, I've been on tour, right? I've just got done 14 shows in 6 weeks. It's been just crazy. And I go to a restaurant, and the first thing I say is, ooh, that looks good. But if I switch it and say, what looks good for me, that's different. What looks good for me is different than what looks good. And that just this little switches can shift your whole perception of life. It's crazy.
Yeah. We got some Scott joining us. Scott, good to see you. Hope things are on the upswing down in Texas there. Branding is marketing to the subconscious. Absolutely.
Yep.
And I know in Hypno Hustle, we talked a lot about different types of marketing and whatnot. And, it's those types of discussions that definitely help me create what I've got going on here today, and knowing where else I need to go, what the next step is, because I've got a few steps to take to, start pushing out the brand so that it becomes even more recognizable, at least in the area. And then, the marketing that would go along with it. One of the best things you can do when you're looking at marketing is make sure you provide some nugget of value, because as you do that, all of a sudden people are a little more amenable to the dollar signs that may follow. I find Jesse Lewis here in Saskatchewan, he's got a lock on the entire province. He's got videos out on, if you're planning a fundraiser, and then, the hook at the end. If you're doing this, if you're doing that, he's got all those value adds that all of a sudden people are thinking, well, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. I should investigate further. And then they get onto his website and, hook, line, and sinker. So, yeah. And again, The one thing that I find that we need to do as a group, and we all kind of lament this, who is our superstar? Like if I said Michael Jackson or Prince or let's pick somebody who's still with us.
Justin Bieber.
There, Canadian guy. We'll go with it. So somebody like that, or you could pick somebody in football or whatever it is. There are these standout stars that have gone from just what I'll call basic stardom to superstardom, and I don't know that we've ever had hypnotists hit that superstardom point where everybody would just remember, oh yeah, I saw the Hypno Hick, or oh yeah, I saw that SK Hypnosis guy. It seems like we are they know they've seen a hypnotist and they know that it was a funny show, but the extra stardom doesn't come. We don't often get a star on our door and a knock from Scooter saying, Mr. Christensen, it's time for the show.
Right.
So that's something that we all get to work toward, and I think branding and marketing is one of those ways that we'll definitely get there.
Yep.
So, all right.
Be as busy as you want. I promise. You just gotta push.
Well, and the thing that opened my eyes to that was actually working with Jesse here in the province. Of course, we met up at Grant, talking about the Performing Hypnosis Summit, Changing Lives, and Jesse and I met up at the conference, and since then, we've gone back and forth. I got this. Can you do it? Because I can't do it. I'm already booked. And it's benefited both of us, but that wouldn't have happened had I not met Jesse.
Yeah.
And those connections are definitely valuable. So, and none of this definitely would have happened without guys like Scott and Steve, and the Hypno Hustle Group, Lisa and company, just sharing knowledge and inviting me in. I mean, that was probably the very first step that I took towards even thinking about going out on stage. Not that I was opposed to it. I mean, I was in education for 25 years, and I survived middle years teaching. So you're pretty much bulletproof after that. So, so they say.
Yeah.
Anyway, last word to you, sir.
I'm good.
There you go. That should be everybody's statement. I'm good.
I'm good. I'm enough.
And you can take that to the bank. I'm good.
Right.
That sounds great. So we'll end it off here. Thank you so much for sticking with us. I know we had a few technical glitches between here and Great Britain, and yeah, it happens. Live electrons, they sometimes don't do what you want them to. But definitely thanks for sticking with us and leading us through that awesome session at the end there. That was, like I said, that was amazing, and I'll definitely be looking at how I can use that with a couple of clients that are upcoming.
Heck yeah, let me know how that goes. So good.
Yeah, I will message you after I see Friday afternoon. So yeah, I'll try and shoot you a message later Friday afternoon just to let you know where things landed with that particular client. Cool. For the rest of you, I know, Shaun, are you finished touring now, or you're back out on the road right away?
That tour's finished. I have this weekend off, and then I've got some stuff for the 4th of July, which is the big, United States holiday.
Yeah.
I got some stuff here for that, and then it's fair season shortly after that. I'm doing a lot of, the peach days, onion days, and then fair season. So that's coming up, and I've got 23 shows in August. July I've got a few. So, and then after that it's fundraising season again. So, yeah.
Right back into it. So enjoy your weekend off. I will definitely say that, because I know what it's like when you finally get that one weekend off that you've been, coming back, and it sounds like you were 11,000 miles is more than 11,000 kilometers. So
20,000 kilometers actually. Yeah.
Yeah. The 11,000 kilometers would probably get me across the country and back just a little bit.
Nice.
So yeah, that's just to give everybody an idea how big Canada and the United States are. Like, you know, we're bigger than, well, Canada's the second biggest, and the US I believe is third or fourth. But in terms of width, if you were to drive across one of our interstates or Highway 1, the Trans Canada Highway, you'd be driving for days. And I know in Europe you would pass through like a dozen countries. No. You might get through 3 or 4 provinces or a few states. That's about it. So,
well, it took me and Steve. I helped Steve move to Kentucky, and it took us 36 hours to get from Utah to Kentucky.
Oh yeah, I could see that, and I'm sure Steve had all kinds of stuff to move too.
He did.
Maybe he should buy you a pizza. Pizza, isn't that the standard payment?
Yep.
It's all good. All right.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Shaun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see the rest of you next week, actually, for a special Hypnosis Hero podcast coming from the UK again. But this time during the day, and we'll have Dr. Becca Helene with us talking about why sleep is so important. And we all know how hypnosis can definitely benefit with that. So stay tuned for that next week. Until then, as always, take care, stay well, and be awesome. Good night, everybody.